Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host this week, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and today we're continuing our discussion of the book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and we are on page 139 in the hard copy, the section entitled One Night in Longyearbyen. But before we get going on that, I'm going to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it away and read from there, and then we'll discuss.
Good morning, Lori Emmons in Denver.
Good morning, Dan Sisek here in sunny Las Vegas.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement. You can hear me all right. I switched to my headset. I am going to start the reading. One Night in Longyearbyen. It took 2 hours to get back to the tiny port in Longyearbyen. It was Norway's and the world's most northern town with a population of around 2,000 people. Nora knew these basic things from her root life. She had, after all, been fascinated by this part of the world since she was 11, but her knowledge didn't stretch far beyond the magazine articles she had read, and she was still nervous of talking. But the boat trip back had been okay because her inability to discuss the rock and ice and plant samples they had taken, or to understand phrases such as striated basalt bedrock and post-glacial isotopes, was put down to the shock of her polar bear encounter. And she was in a kind of shock, it was true. But it was not the shock her colleagues were imagining. The shock hadn't been that she thought she'd been about to die. She had been about to die ever since she first entered the Midnight Library. No, the shock was that she felt like she was about to live, or at least that she could imagine wanting to be alive again, and she wanted to do something good with that life. The life of a human, according to the Scottish philosopher David Hume, who was of no greater importance to the universe than that of an oyster. But if it was important enough for David Hume to write that thought down, then maybe it was important enough to aim to do something good, to help preserve life in all its forms. As Nora understood it, the work this other Nora and her fellow scientists had been doing was something to do with determining the speed at which the ice and glaciers had been melting in the region to gauge the acceleration rate of climate change. There was more to it than that, but that was at the core of it as far as Nora could see. So in this life, she was doing her bit to save the planet, or at least to monitor the steady devastation of the planet in order to alert people to the facts of environmental crisis. That was potentially depressing, but also a good and ultimately fulfilling thing to do, she imagined. There was purpose. There was meaning. They were impressed, too, the others, with the polar bear story. Nora was a hero of sorts, not in an Olympic swimming champion way, but in another equally fulfilling kind of fashion. Ingrid had her arm around her. You are the saucepan warrior, and I think we need to mark your fearlessness and our potentially groundbreaking findings with a meal, a nice meal, and some vodka. What do you say, Peter? A nice meal? In Longyearbyen? Do they have them? As it turned out, they did. Back on dry land, they went to a smart wooden shack of a place called, I am not even going to try to attempt that. Perched off a lonely road in an austere snow-crisp valley, she drank Arctic ale and surprised her colleagues by eating the only vegan option on a menu that included reindeer steak and moose burger. Nora must have looked tired because quite a few of her colleagues told her that she did, but maybe it was just that there weren't many places in the conversation that she could enter with confidence. She felt like a learner driver at a busy junction, nervously waiting for a clear and safe patch of road. Hugo was there. He still looked to her like he would rather be in Antibes or St. Tropez. She felt a little uneasy as he stared at her, a little too observed. On the hurried walk back to their land-based accommodation, which reminded Nora of a university halls of residence, but on a smaller scale and more Nordic and wooden and minimal. Hugo jogged to catch her up and walk by her side. It is interesting, he said. What is interesting? How at breakfast this morning you didn't know who I was. Why, you didn't know who I was either. Of course I did. We were chatting for about 2 hours yesterday. Nora felt like she was inside some kind of trap. We were? I studied you at breakfast before I came over, and I could see you were different today. That's creepy, Hugo, studying women at breakfast. And I noticed things. Nora lifted her scarf over her face. It's too cold. Can we talk about this tomorrow? I noticed you improvising. All day you have been non-committal in everything you say. Not true. I'm just shook up. You know, that bear. Nah. He says some other language there. I'm talking about before the bear and after the bear and all day. I have no idea what you're. There is a look. I've seen it before in other people. I'd recognize it anywhere. I have no idea what you're talking about. Why do glaciers pulsate? What? This is your area of study. It's why you're here, isn't it? The science isn't entirely settled on the matter. Okay, bien. Name me one of the glaciers around here. Glaciers have names. Name one. Kongsbreen? That Horsebreen? Ring any bells? I don't want this conversation. Because you aren't the same person you were yesterday, are you? None of us are, said Nora briskly. Our brains change. Stop mansplaining glaciers to the glaciologist, Hugo. Hugo seemed to retreat a little, and she felt a bit guilty. There was a minute of silence, just the crunch of their feet in the snow. They were nearly back at the accommodation, the others not too far behind them. But then he said it. I am like you, Nora. I visit lives that aren't mine. I have been in this one for 5 days, but I have been in many others. I was given an opportunity, a rare opportunity for this to happen. I've been sliding between lives for a long while. Ingrid grabbed Nora's arm. I still have some vodka, she announced as they reached the door. She held her key card in her glove and tapped it against the scanner. The door opened. Listen, Hugo mumbled conspiratorially. If you want to know more, meet me in the communal kitchen in 5 minutes. And Nora felt her heart race, but this time she had no ladle or saucepan to bang. She didn't particularly like this Hugo character, but was far too intrigued not to hear what he had to say. And she also wanted to know if he could be trusted. Okay, she said, I'll be there. Shall we continue?
Yeah, I think the next section probably goes with this section because it says expectation. So I
All
think we should. What about you guys?
right. Expectation. Nora had always had a problem accepting herself. From as far back as she could remember, she'd had the sense that she wasn't enough. Her parents, who both had their own insecurities, had encouraged that idea. She imagined now what it would be like to accept herself completely. Every mistake she had ever made, every mark on her body, every dream she hadn't reached or pain she had felt, every lust or longing she had suppressed. She imagined accepting it all, the way she accepted nature, the way she accepted a glacier or a puffin or the breach of a whale. She imagined seeing herself as just another brilliant freak of nature, just another sentient animal trying their best. And in doing so, she imagined what it was like to be free.
Oh, I really like that. I like that idea of just.
Yeah.
I love how she like said, what would it be like to, imagine herself as just a brilliant freak of nature, I say freak of nature a lot. I don't know why. I just do. And then it's like just for random things. And, sometimes I call the dogs freaks of nature, or myself or whatever, And, but that's just a fascinating idea to think of that in a way that is awe-inspiring. I'm just a brilliant freak of nature. And because we're all unique, right? We all have these idiosyncrasies that are unique to ourselves. And even though we may have similarities to other people in a lot of different ways, we still are just that brilliant freak of nature. I love
And
that.
we're all okay.
And we're all okay, And I'm sad that in this first part of this little section, she was talking about how, as far back as she remember, she always had the sense that she wasn't enough, and her parents had just reinforced that throughout her life. And I know that is some aspect of that can be very true for a lot of different people, is that just people in their lives from early on always treated them like they're just not good enough, or they're not whatever, there's something wrong with them.
Not enough.
Yeah, not enough, and not good enough, not enough in general, or to this or to that, or whatever. And I like this kind of reminder for us, because obviously we have whatever this baggage is that we carry with ourselves from our past, and then we tend to pass that on to other people in our lives too. And maybe if we just start thinking of each other as a brilliant freak of nature, I think that's just a really cool thought process to me. I don't know. I think I see things out in nature, just typical nature things, that I'm just like awed by all the time. And yet, I don't know, sometimes I don't see myself or people in the same way. When I'm frustrated with this or upset about that, I'm thinking in the opposite direction. And because it's either not meeting my expectation, or it's frustrating me, or irritating, or whatever the thing might be, whether that has something to do with the kids or my husband or other people in the world or whatever. And so I love that idea of just looking at not only myself, but as, the outside and everything in it and everyone in it as some brilliant freak of nature. It's amazing and inspiring. So I'll leave it with that. I missed a little bit of what you were reading there, Catherine. I apologize. I was switching from my phone to my computer, and then Unica came in here and asked me if I wanted to go with her to take the kids to the Children's Museum. So I missed part of the conversation. So I won't have you explain what happened. So you guys just talk about it, and I'll add in as we go.
I'll jump in on your point, because you bring up a good point that I think in the universe, how God, infinite intelligence, however, but I think, how God created everything, that we are all, for lack of a better way, unique, freaks of, of nature. And we all have our idiosyncrasies that are our own frequencies. But yet when we get out there, we try to harmonize with other people's and their frequencies, but then we sometimes see our own, what we feel as our lack of being similar or whatever, and what we get passed on to us from those around us that we grew up with, our parents and stuff and things like that. But we got to remember, they got that passed on to them from there. So it's almost like that, reoccurring thing that keeps happening, and until we all realize that we are our own unique freaks of nature, and that we are wonderfully and beautifully made in that sense, to coexist throughout all of the universe. I think, we try to blend in too, so much because of how we are told or taught, or how we even take in or assimilate what we feel will make us be accepted or liked or fit into the rest of the world, to keep that harmony kind of going, if you follow what I'm saying. But yet sometimes we need those beautiful freaks of nature to come in and show us that this can be beautiful and this can be unique in and of itself, and that it's okay to be ourselves, you know and to not put ourselves down, because at that point then we're shortchanging ourselves. And maybe part of our beautiful freak of nature is what we bring and can add to it, that's so unique and different, because we're so afraid of you know what we've learned, what we've taught, what we've seen, or even our own inner insecurities that we place on ourselves. We don't let that out. And that's, I think, something that um something that needs to be allowed more, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how far along Nora has come? If you remember at the beginning of the book, she was berating herself constantly. Like her whole existence was centered around focusing on her inability to do life in general. Like she couldn't do anything right in her own eyes. She was so judgmental against herself. And now, here she is fighting off polar bears and then at the end of the last chapter, she forgave her parents completely. Um, she, was looking back at all the different lives and all the different parent roles that were played, and then herself and how she dealt with situations, and she had forgiven her parents completely. Um, and now she's forgiving herself, or at least considering it, forgiving herself for everything. And what a freeing thing that is, to stop the judgment. We've said this before, we're our own worst abusers, and the things that we expect out of ourselves. I was at a football game last night, junior high, and just the expectations that are put on those kids um, was mind blowing. And as I sat there watching, and there's always parents in the stands that are screaming and yelling and stuff, and I was listening to the comments that the parents were making, and I was imagining some of the conversations that were going to on after the game, and wondering how much pressure was going to be put on those kids for whatever mistake they made or whatnot. And I was thinking, oh my God. And it was just, it's crazy when you think about your life and different parts of your life. Because I know all of us here feel like we've lived a million lives just within this one life right here. We don't even have to pop in and
Amen.
out. We just, we've taken on so many different roles and everything. So, but when you look back at just the pressure that we put on ourselves, much less everybody else. I mean, everybody puts pressure on us, but just what we put on ourselves, it's pretty intense, to especially like now she's found somebody else that is also coming in and out of the library. So now she's really gonna see, oh, we just choose to come do different things, and all of it's a big deal and none of it is a really, really, really big deal. You know what I mean? Like none of it is worth berating ourselves or beating ourselves up. I mean, some people have regrets that last their whole lives. They beat themselves up forever over a mistake that they made in grade school or something. And it's it is very freeing to take a step back and look at the big picture and get things into focus again, and realize how silly we can be and how cruel we can be to ourselves and others at times when it's just like you were talking about before we came on, Laura. You spent all this time and money, I'm assuming, working on your computer and getting a new microphone and getting a new
Yeah,
video recorder and camera and all of this and that, and now you're here on your phone, and you did all that because you didn't think that you could do it on your phone well, but now here you are, a pro at doing it on your phone, and you went through all that. And we do that same thing with so many situations in life, at least I do. um I think I want to do such and such, and I'll spend all this money and time, and I'm so focused around that, and then that's like a different lifetime, a month later or something. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh well, I did that. Like, it's
it was a learning experience. So yeah, I know how to do it.
there you go, there you go.
I was going to jump in and say, I liked what the point you brought up about Nora realizing, that somebody else is kind of doing the same thing she's doing, but maybe now she realizes that, oh, I'm not the only one that has felt like this, that I'm no good or that I'm not, somebody else, for their reasons are going through, but maybe they have the same similar ideas or feelings I've had. Oh, maybe I'm not the only one that, you know, and then I didn't realize this, but when you guys did last week and you said that she forgave her parents, I think it's interesting because as I've gotten older and I've learned some more things about my real mom and my stepdad and about my real father and some things, and then just going back and re-looking at things and putting things into some better context and looking at it from the adult lens rather than the child lens. It took me a lot of years to get there, but I've realized that, I could forgive my real mom and my stepdad and, not for the damage or the hurt that it did, but maybe understanding where they were coming from and what they were going through and maybe some of the hurt and the issues, that they were dealing with because of what they went through, especially my real mom having, being a mother, being getting married at 15 and a half, having me at 16, and then my sister, and then having two, other children. One died of crib death, one died stillborn, all probably by the time she was 20 or 21. That had to have some real effects on her life, and I've had to re-look at that and review and maybe put, I can't put myself in her situation, but I can do my best to understand maybe the pain and the hurt and what she was going through, and she didn't know how to because of life and society and how things were expected back then, because it was a different age and era compared to now. So I got to the point where I could forgive them. It doesn't mean I condone what they did or, or what I received was right or wrong, but it's funny how, as life goes on and you gain more experience, you learn more things, you can then go back and look at things and get a new, fresh look at it and fresh view of it. And maybe this is the way Nora's going through and learning that, to realize that her life did have something and meant something. She just has to realize that she's got to mean and value something in herself first before she can accept that others can value and have value in her and see her as being valuable. And I think that's the biggest thing that we as humans do is we lose value in ourselves, so then we think we have no value to nobody. But when we do gain that value and learn to love ourselves and learn to, be at that point, that's when, we can open up more and be able to step outside of that.
Yeah, that's super powerful, Dan. And especially that you are able to make that step in your own life in regards to your mom, and because it's huge. It's so huge. And it's like I have experienced in my life, or you have somebody that you're involved with in some way, whether that's a boyfriend girlfriend relationship or family, or whatever it happens to be. And yeah, it's like you way back, I was involved with this guy, and it was it was an abusive relationship, but not physically, yeah, it was more of a mental abuse. And I didn't realize it until years later. That's what it was. But I was very hurt in that situation, and I didn't always understand why, and I didn't understand the dynamics of the situation, and until I got older. And when I did get older and I was able to look at him and see the dynamics of his life and how his way of treating me was because of that then I was able to heal my own wounds in the situation, because I realized that he wasn't doing that to me on purpose. It wasn't like he went out with the purpose of trying to destroy me as a person mentally. He didn't intend to do that. And he didn't know what he was doing any more than he didn't know what had been done to him in his life from his uh, growing up. And when I was able to do that, I was able to heal from that. And that's such a huge thing, because I can see, even with it's like my mom has struggled her whole entire life from the mental abuse that she received, from when she was growing up, and from her string of men. Not a huge string. There's only three. I say string, but my mom she's been married 3 times in her life, and then and each of those people that she was married to was abusive in one way or another, and I have seen how that has taken a huge toll on her self-esteem and her overall just everything. And it's hard, because if she could realize what they weren't purposely doing it to her, even though it felt that way, that she could heal from that. And but I have noticed also that she has recognized some things in her life that she has been able to heal from. And I've been really happy for her in that, because and mostly I feel like she's realizing she has value, that that she didn't have, or she didn't feel like she had in those days, that even that. And, I, I'm happy
We
for her.
weren't given a whole lot of information about Nora's
Hmm?
younger life.
What?
We weren't given a whole lot of information about Nora's younger life, and it's hard to understand all that. But no, it's pretty much a common thing of humanity. Excuse me. Humanity, it seems to be everybody has that issue. We all have history.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard when you're in the midst of it not to take it completely personally, as if that person is purposely doing it to you. I mean, that's a huge thing to recognize that. Now, I'm not saying every abuse situation is that, obviously there are some abuse situations where they are purposely trying to hurt you. Although I think a lot of that still stems from what happened to them and when they were growing up too, is that they wouldn't be that person if it wasn't for their past, but at the same time, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know every dynamic of every life situation, but I know in my own parents and a lot of people that I know,
Well,
you know,
I was gonna say, I think you're partially right, Samantha, though. I think for a lot of us, I know, like for me, knowing what I've gone through and what I lived through, but if I'm honest, I do have some, how do I say this? Dark moments where I can let my raw emotions get out and get to me, and I can really lash out. And I've done it a couple times. As I've gotten older and as I've gotten, I've learned that about myself. So I have tried and learned to find ways of how to channel that in ways that are more constructive, in a way where I'm not doing anything to anybody, but yet I can still release that aspect of what I need to release. But I think there are times where people don't understand that about themselves, or where they get that. And I think my mom and my stepdad are cases in point. They didn't know, and I had the unique privilege and blessings of a grandmother, and then family that did take me in, that showed me better ways of how to handle those type of things. But if I'm honest, I have a lot of those very dark tendencies that my real mother had and that my stepdad had. I don't think my real father had them, because he ended up divorcing my real mother because of a situation. I'm not going to go into that situation, because that's just, but I know about it. I've been told about it. So, for me, understanding and knowing that it can be there, I try my best to not allow that to overtake me. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, I've told people I've punched a brick wall before. I punched a light, street light post before. Luckily, I didn't break my hands or anything. I don't know how I hit him. I don't remember exactly the way I hit. But I was so mad, but I didn't want to do or hurt anybody, that I did that. I would rather have done it to myself, in a sense, than at that point, because of my own, what I've gone through. But but that's something I've learned, but I have my moments too. When I'm here at home alone, there have been times where, um, I really wanted to just punch a hole in the wall, because I've gotten so mad or something, or so upset or so irritated because of something that somebody said, something that probably really wasn't that big of an issue. But, I think those are things that, and I think Nora may not have those issues in that same sense, but she's so self-defeating in and of herself that she just doesn't want to live. I actually want to live, but yeah, I think, and I think we can all attest, we all kind of tend to sabotage ourselves in our own ways, to match what we're feeling or what we're, um, for that. But it takes a lot of introspecting and looking inside. But a lot of people don't want to look inside either, and that's the other part of it, I think.
I was glad that came up in the conversation that Hugo is actually going through the same thing in the library that Nora is. I guess I missed that part or something, but I am glad that was clarified, but I don't know if we should read a little more or see what's going on.
I kind of think
I think we
we
probably,
can go
I
ahead.
think, well, I was just going to say, I know Samantha has to jump off and we got started kind of late, but maybe we'll just finish our discussion today and then we can read some more next week. But yeah, I'm curious too what's going on with Hugo. This will be fun. They can compare now and see how they can, see what lives he's done and what lives she's done, and if she's known him in maybe in another life under a different name or something. I mean, to me, that's all really kind of fun and exciting and interesting, and I ask those same questions about people in my own lives. Oh, I wonder, who I was to them in the last one and what they were to me, and because I know we all kind of come back together as a group in some aspects, and so, but yeah, I'm really glad that she's gone from being so self-defeating. Now she wants to live. She really, up until now, see you next time, Samantha. Up until now, she has not wanted to live, and now she does. And there are, you know, there's been years of my life that I didn't want to live, and then now I do. So I can totally relate to going in and out of wanting to live and not wanting to live. I kind of go in and out of that. But right now, I'm on the wanting side. And I mean, most of the time, when you can look back at a situation in retrospect, even if you got to the point where you really didn't want to live, when you look back at it and you're out of that moment and you're out of the emotions of that moment, it's almost always you look back and say, oh, wow, I can't believe I really was that down or felt that bad or really wanted to die. But then other circumstances that I have been in, I look at myself and I say, oh my God, I can't believe that I didn't take my life during that time. How am I still here? And yeah, so
I
I'm just, I mean, I can totally relate with Nora, but I'm glad she's found a fellow traveler now.
It's so true. And with all that I've been through, am surprised I've never thought of taking my own life, even though there's so much that I could easily have gone down that road. And I still don't feel like I have a huge purpose or anything, but I just still want to live and trying hard to find the purpose and find a direction and a reason that why would I want to leave this beautiful place? You look around in nature And I'm like you, Samantha, I find so much to be grateful for and happy that I'm here. So, love you all, and I guess we'll talk next week.
Yeah, I'll bring up my last little bit, and then yeah, yeah. I think if we're all honest, I'm sure we've all had those moments where we thought we wanted to, just end it all and be all through all the things. And I think that's general for most of humanity. I'm sorry. I just think everybody goes through those ups and downs of where they think that, oh, this is the worst. I just don't want to live this. I can't handle it. But then somehow we get past that and we look back and we say, oh, and we realize how strong and how resilient we are, and that, oh, and then we look and see the beauty and the wonder and the blessings of those that we have around us that have been there and stood by us and helped us and loved us, through all that. So in that, I think that's something that, is going back to a couple of love is the overriding love is, when we continue to put that love out and give love and do our best to be love, even when we go through those down times, then hopefully those around us give us the love back that we need to help us get through that. They may not always do it in the best ways or with the best intentions or knowing the best way to do it. And they may even hurt us in some ways going through it. But a lot of times, as I'm learning, I don't think they necessarily mean it that way. It's just sometimes people don't know how to actively show it back to you in the way you need it. Because as we've learned, everybody has their own love language. Everybody has their own way of how they receive, accept, perceive things. So in that, I think it's learning to get back to, for me, love God, the universe, trust in that, knowing that it will help us to have the love that we need for ourselves to accept what's out there and bring that forth and carry us through those ups and downs. And hopefully, as we look back, we'll see that, but we'll see that basic gradual midway line of, the value and the beauty of our lives, and to continue on until at such point then our life and reach the end of, for lack of a better way, of this journey, and we move on to whatever's next. And for me, I believe that will be when, certain aspects of what I believe happen, and then I move on into what I believe, where I will go for eternity. So in that sense, and I think that's, that, and then understanding and realizing the value of those around us and realizing their value and building up them up as best as we can, the best way we know, and to love them, hopefully with that same amount of love that we love ourselves. So if there's go ahead, Catherine, if there's anything else, jump in.
I was just going to add, if we could just love ourselves the way we love others. I know you said if we could just love others the way we love ourselves, but I think most people have trouble loving themselves. I think most people can love others, and especially animals,
Yep.
much easier than we love ourselves, or at least that's been my experience. But the whole point
Absolutely.
is, yeah, the whole point is, just don't feel, when you get in those low moments, just don't feel like you're the only one that's been there, you know. Um, I think I mentioned this last week too. being at Green Corn recently, which is a Native American ceremonial thing, where we were living traditions and doing things that our ancestors have done for thousands of years, it makes you connect on a deeper level, on a human level, and just realize that humans have been experiencing these ups and downs and these trials and tribulations for since breath was, since we were created. And so when you're in those dark moments, if you can just try to reach out to anyone, someone, even a line that you call, um, just talk to somebody, because in retrospect, most things are not as big as what we make them out to be in the moment. They really aren't. And we just, in the moment, the emotions are so strong. It really affects our ability to think. That's something I'm watching right now because I have a teenager in my house. So I get to watch teenage activity and like how they are acting and thinking. And, some of the things that they say are just so surprising to me that they would come to that conclusion from that situation. And it really has given me quite a lot of compassion for my younger self, because I look at the stuff that I did my younger years and I'm like, oh, you were bad. You were bad, girl. But you know, it when you can learn to have compassion on a whole level, it really changes things for you. And if you can just forgive anybody for something, it helps you to forgive yourself then. Or if you can look at somebody in awe, maybe it's not as hard to look at, I mean, maybe it's harder to look at yourself and recognize the good things that you've done, but it's a first step, when you can learn to love, learn to forgive, um, learn that, it's where we are perfect as God's creation. We are perfect, but none of us are perfect, and we weren't meant to be. We are these, uh, I can't remember the name that Samantha was calling us earlier, these freaks. We are these glorious
Freaking
freaks of
nature.
nature, we really are. And it's okay that we have things that aren't quite right about us, or things that work or don't work, or it's all good. Like it really is all good, you guys. And when it's not good, it's just hang in there until it gets good, because it does. Like it's not always, that's the thing. We get in these down situations and we think things are never going to be better. Like we don't have any hope. There's a lot of people on the planet doing that right now just because of political situation, the environmental situation, and people have all different ideas and thoughts about that. And, even quote science, scientists have different thoughts about all of that. And a lot of people can look at that situation as a whole and go, oh, we're just going to hell in a handbasket here, and they can get depressed, and it changes your trajectory when you allow your emotions to drive you like that. Emotions are good, but they set off chemicals in our body that I'm watching these teenage boys. They just look at my granddaughter. I can already see the hormones moving. Like it's, you know, thoughts affect physical bodies and stuff, they really do. So, um, try to wait it out, talk to somebody, get through, because life really is such, it's so amazing. It really is so amazing. Get out in nature, you guys. I don't know. I guess some people don't like nature, so maybe that's not a good suggestion. But for me, nature always, levels me back
Me
out, and
too.
I'll sit and watch a bug that's struggling to do something, and they just go at it and go at it and go at it and go at it. I don't hear them bitching or moaning or nothing. if you can, just get out and enjoy yourself a little bit. I love you guys so much, and I'm really grateful, uh, really, really grateful to be here, and for many reasons. And even though, sometimes I look at the world and go, what in the heck is going on? Like, where are we headed? Are we really going to have to just, end it all and start over again? Like, how many times we got to go through this before we come to these same conclusions? Because it seems like we repeat a lot of history, as a whole, as a civilization. It's like, can't we be a little bit quicker studies on some of this stuff?
Is because we don't learn from the history. And sometimes it's like, stop the world and let me off.
Yep, exactly.
Love
Well, with
y'all.
that, this is the Saturday Morning Mastermind. On behalf of Samantha, seeing how she had to go and take care of some business. You can find us on Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective. You can also find us on YouTube at Mindset Mastery Collective and see all the replays of all the different things we've covered over the last, about 10 years now or so, 9 or 10 years. As we've had people come and go and stuff, but they're all in our hearts and our thoughts, and we love it when they can come back and visit. If you want to be a part of the panel, you can always get a hold of us or one of us, or you can go to, like I said, either the Mindset Mastery Facebook page or our YouTube channel, or you can go to our website at mindsetmasterycollective.com, and all those places can lead you back to how to jump on here and join us and share your thoughts, as we would love to have you come and join and give us your thoughts on the different things that we talk about. And with that, this is for the Saturday Morning Mastermind. See you all next week, and bye for now.